What really killed this dinosaur mother 70 million years ago isn't what you think. Not hunters, not starvation. She was shielding her eggs from something falling out of the sky. And modern science has finally identified it. Her body was frozen mid-embrace, arms curled inward, ribs cradling a clutch of unhatched eggs beneath the sand. For 70 million years, no living eye had witnessed her posture. Until a hammer struck sandstone in Mongolia. The silence broke. But who was she? And what fell from that ancient sky to end her vigil? Millions of years ago, there existed a world that no longer exists. Warm seas, red iron dunes, volcanic skies. This is the Late Cretaceous, roughly 75 million years before the first human footprint ever pressed the Earth. The continents wore unfamiliar shapes. India drifting alone across the Tethys, North America split by an inland sea. In Central Asia, a vast basin of shifting sand stretched toward a horizon no map had ever charted. Today, we call it the Gobi. Back then, it had no name, only weather and endless drifting dunes. The paleoenvironment was a paradox. By day, the dunes baked under a sun magnified by an oxygen-rich atmosphere. By night, ephemeral rivers threaded the valleys, drawing thirsty herds down from the ridgelines beneath the stars. Ginkgo trees clustered along the water. Cycads fanned their fronds. Small mammals tunneled beneath the roots, waiting. And above them all moved the architects of the age, the dinosaurs, rulers of this lost world. The scale of this ecosystem defies quiet description. Long-necked sauropods, 3 school buses long, plowed through lowland forests. Armored ankylosaurs the size of tanks grazed fern beds. Ceratopsians, horned and shielded, gathered in migratory herds. And through the shadows moved the hunters. Some barely larger than a turkey. Others towering theropods with lethal jaws. Yet what makes the Gobi extraordinary is not what lived here. It is how they died, in supernatural fidelity. A sudden avalanche of dry sand, a collapsing slope during a windstorm, animals buried in seconds, entombed before decay. Bones remained in life position. Skin textures pressed into rock. Eggshells kept their curve. Even inner ear bones survived. Nowhere else has time been so gentle to the dead. Within these dunes, one creature would redefine motherhood itself. The year is 1993. A joint American Museum and Mongolian Academy expedition pushes deep into the southern Gobi. Their destination is Ukhaa Tolgod, a remote basin whose Mongolian name translates roughly as brown hills, windswept and ancient. Wind scours sandstone into ridges. Fossils weather from slopes weekly, exposed by one storm and buried by the next. One bright morning, a paleontologist notices something curved and pale protruding from a hillside. He kneels. He brushes carefully. What emerges is not a single skeleton. It is a scene. A small theropod, 2 meters long, arms outstretched. Beneath those arms, a ring of eggs, perfectly arranged in a spiral clutch. The animal died shielding its nest. The species is identified as Oviraptor. And here the story becomes strange, hiding a slander 70 years old. In 1923, the very first Oviraptor skeleton was found in Mongolia, atop a nest of unhatched eggs. Scientists of that era assumed reptiles cared nothing for their young, and drew the obvious damning conclusion. The creature must have been raiding the nest, stealing eggs. They named it accordingly: Oviraptor, egg thief, a slander that would cling to its name for the next century. Until one afternoon in 1993, the new discovery rewrote that verdict. The eggs were not stolen. They were, unmistakably, her very own. Her posture matched, bone for bone, the brooding pose of a modern ostrich, a hen, a nesting eagle. This was not a thief caught in the act. This was a mother caught in the act of love. And she was not alone. Beneath the same sand, dozens more nests waited silently to be found. Los secretos de la maternidad prehistórica were about to unfold on a scale no one had anticipated. In the years that followed, expeditions returned to the Gobi and to sister sites across 3 continents. A related species, Chittipati, appeared in identical brooding posture, sometimes 2 adults sharing guard duty over one clutch. In the Cretaceous rocks of North America, the small predator Troodon revealed nests arranged in careful geometric patterns. And in Montana, a single discovery of astonishing scale would reshape the vocabulary of modern paleontology forever. Her name was Maiasaura, good mother lizard, a duck-billed hadrosaur whose nesting grounds sprawled across kilometers of Cretaceous floodplain. Thousands of eggs, hundreds of hatchlings, fossilized juvenile bones found within the same nests showed young remained under maternal care. This was not instinct fired and forgotten. This was extended childhood, prolonged devotion, a whole colony functioning as an ancient society. The geometry of these clutches revealed engineering. Eggs laid in tight rings, allowing the parent's body to distribute warmth evenly across every shell. Some nests were dug into sand for solar incubation. Others mounded with rotting vegetation for microbial heat, like modern crocodilians still do. The feathered arms of theropods like Oviraptor and Chittipati served a purpose science had long refused to seriously imagine. They were living blankets, insulation, shelter from wind and rain and the plummeting temperatures of a cold Cretaceous night. Then the fossil record delivered something no one had predicted, a discovery that would rewrite what we thought we knew. In the 2010s, a new generation of paleontologists brought new tools: computed tomography, isotope mass spectrometry, and synchrotron radiation beams. The technology allowed them to peer deep inside fossilized eggs without ever breaking the shell. And what they found utterly astonished them. Curled inside those unhatched eggs were embryos, delicate, jewel-like, preserved down to the fingernails of hands smaller than a single raindrop. Their positions revealed the exact moment of arrested development. Some had been days from hatching, others still months away from emergence. In one clutch, the tucking posture, head tucked under wing, matched a modern chicken's pre-hatching position with startling precision. The resemblance felt like a whisper across 70 million years, a fragile thread binding today's birds to a lost prehistoric world. Isotope analysis of the eggshell chemistry told an even deeper story about these ancient dinosaur mothers and their nests. The carbonate crystals of dinosaur eggshells retain a chemical fingerprint of their formation, sealed within calcite for eons. By measuring oxygen and carbon isotopes, researchers reconstructed incubation temperatures inside each buried clutch, and the numbers surprised them. Many species maintained internal egg temperatures near 35 to 40 degrees Celsius, warmer than the surrounding desert air, warmer than reptile physiology allows. These were not cold-blooded creatures depositing eggs and simply walking away from them. These were warm-bodied parents, actively regulating the heat of their young, a behavior once thought impossible for dinosaurs. The incubation period, calculated from embryonic growth rings within tiny fossilized teeth, stretched to as long as 6 months. Half a year of vigilance. Half a year without extended feeding, rarely leaving the nest for more than brief moments. The mother's bone isotopes showed depletion of calcium, phosphorus, and elemental building blocks she had transferred into her eggs. She had, quite literally, given pieces of her own skeleton to nourish and armor her unborn children. Mundo Perdido del Mesozoico was not scaled monsters ruled by hunger. It was a world of nesting parents, of nesting colonies, of shared warmth exchanged between adults and hatchlings across a slowly cooling Cretaceous dusk. But something arrived at that nest in Ukhaa Tolgod, and she never left it, never lifted her wings again. The sedimentology of the site tells the story with cold precision, grain by grain, layer by layer. The sandstone surrounding her body shows the signature of a sudden event, not slow burial, not gradual sedimentation. The grains are graded in a way that geologists recognize immediately as the fingerprint of a collapsing dune, a catastrophic sandstorm, perhaps a massive slope failure triggered by distant thunder vibrating the dune crest above her, or by rain saturating the dune, sending tons of sand cascading downward over her in a matter of seconds. She had no chance to flee. And even if she had, she would not have. She chose to stay. The fossilized position of her limbs is the most eloquent evidence in the entire paleontological discovery here. Her arms remain extended over the clutch, her body angled downward, chest pressed firmly against ancient sand. Her tail curls around one side of the nest. She is not braced to run, but to shelter. In the final second of her life, sand hissed down, sky darkened, and she covered her eggs completely. This is what fell from the Cretaceous sky. Not a predator, not a meteor. Sand. A silent wall. Comparative taphonomy, the study of how organisms fossilize, lets paleontologists reconstruct her final moments with clinical accuracy. Similar burials have been found nearby. The famous fighting dinosaurs specimen was preserved by the same catastrophic event. A velociraptor locked in combat with a protoceratops, entombed together mid-battle. In that case, violence froze into stone. In her case, love did. The physics of asphyxiation under a dune is anything but gentle to endure. The weight of the sand compresses the rib cage. Air is pressed from the lungs against the crushing load. The animal cannot inflate its chest against the load. Death arrives within minutes, sometimes within only seconds. Yet in those final moments, the last motor commands from her brain traveled down her spine into her arms. Cover the nest, cover the eggs, hold. Her death preserved a truth science refused to believe for centuries. That truth is now beyond dispute. Dinosaurs were devoted parents. Not all species, but among the theropods universally. Among the hadrosaurs, among the small feathered branches that would one day give rise to birds, parental care ruled. This finding shattered the old paradigm of reptilian cold instinct. For most of the 20th century, dinosaurs seemed automatons, scaled creatures laying eggs, abandoning them, ruled by hunger and reflex. That image is dead, replaced by something richer. The great theropods stood over their nests as any modern bird stands over hers, turning eggs, regulating temperature. They defended the clutch against intruders, calling to their unhatched young with low vocalizations, as modern birds do, prompting the chicks inside to synchronize their emergence. Here, the story bends toward every living creature today. Every bird alive today is a theropod dinosaur. Every sparrow at your window, every hawk on a fence post, every gull tracing a coastline. They carry the genetic legacy of that Cretaceous mother in the Gobi. Her brooding posture is their brooding posture. Her nest architecture is theirs. Her devotion is their devotion entirely. La ciencia moderna revela an unbroken thread. 70 million years of maternal instinct passed generation to generation. Surviving the asteroid, surviving the ice ages, surviving the rise and fall of every mammalian empire that followed, surviving into pigeons on a city ledge. When a robin sits on her clutch, she repeats an ancient gesture, a gesture older than the Himalayas, the ancient theropod mother's devotion, still living quietly in every nest today. And this nest in Ukhaa Tolgod was not the only revelation buried beneath the Gobi's ancient sands. The 2020s brought discoveries reshaping the picture. Chemical analysis of fossilized eggshells has revealed ancient pigmentation. Ancient dinosaur eggs were colored. Some shimmered blue-green, remarkably resembling the eggs of a modern emu bird. Others were speckled and camouflaged, blending seamlessly against the sand and vegetation of their windswept nesting grounds. This detail, so small, so intimate, tells us that dinosaurs saw color, judged it, and selected for it. Their eggs were not simply hidden, they were decorated, designed to blend, to signal, or be recognized. Returning parents identified their own clutches among sprawling colonies numbering in the hundreds across vast nesting territories. The nesting colonies themselves have emerged from the fossil record as remarkably complex prehistoric societies of dinosaurs. Fossilized trackways show adults moving between clutches, patrolling perimeters, returning from foraging trips along identical daily paths. Patagonian sites contain thousands of nests spread across former lake shores, colonial breeding rivaling modern seabird rookeries. These were not solitary animals meeting only to mate. They were communal creatures, gathering on ancestral ground. The emotional weight carried by the Gobi mother, though, resists easy words and defies simple scientific description. Here lived a creature that died before flowers fully evolved, before grass carpeted plains, before mammals dreamt. And yet her final act remains legible to us, recognizable, human in a way that scrambles species borders. She sheltered her children with her body. She refused to leave. She is fossil. She is portrait. Un mundo que ya no existe. And yet its echoes reach every sparrow, ostrich, and hummingbird above a garden. Science at its best is time travel. It does not merely date the past, it resurrects it. It lets us stand beside her in the Cretaceous dusk, watching the horizon darken as sand grains begin to fall. Yet one final mystery remains unsolved. We do not know how long her hatchlings would have stayed with her. We do not know how she communicated with them through the shell, whispering warnings only unhatched ears could hear. We do not know if her mate returned to help, or whether he had already died months earlier, or whether he stood watch from a nearby ridge, helpless, as the towering dune collapsed upon his mate. These are questions the fossil cannot yet answer. But the Gobi is far from finished offering its ancient secrets. And there is another shadow in this story. A predator moved through these same wind-carved crimson dunes. A creature specialized in hunting nesting sites. A feathered killer with sickle claws and a patient hunter's discipline. It stalked the Oviraptor colonies, waited for parents to leave, and struck when the eggs lay wholly undefended. Its name became one of the most famous in paleontology, though the animal's reality little resembles cinema's invented legend. Misterios prehistóricos aún por descifrar. Every field season, new mothers emerge weathered from the ancient Gobi sandstone. New nests, new embryos, new evidence of parental behavior no scientist had ever predicted or thought biologically possible. The Gobi has yielded more brooding dinosaurs than any site on Earth, and it continues to give generously. Paleontologists returning next season will find fossils no living human eye has yet seen, buried beneath the sand. The story of life is still being written in stone, one weathered ridge revealed at a time. The next chapter of Mundo Prehistórico begins with a shadow across the dunes. The hunter that stalked her kind. The feathered predator of the Gobi, the creature turning nesting colonies into silent hunting grounds. His story is coming. Suscríbete para continuar el viaje a un mundo que ya no existe. Activa la campana para el próximo capítulo. The next episode leads you into the shadow of the feathered killer of the Gobi. Do not miss it. The dust of the Cretaceous is only beginning.